Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To carry on with the introduction to human anatomy lectures or general anatomy lectures, I'm gonna talk today about the digestive system. I'm Dr. Dalia Saleh, professor and head of anatomy department at Mansoura University. The objectives of my presentation is about the following. First, we will discuss the components of the digestive system, the digestive tract and the accessory digestive organs, and then we will talk about the principal functions of the digestive system. For the digestive system, like I just said, it consists of the following. The pathway of the food is at what is called the digestive tract. It starts with the mouth, then the pharynx, then the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and then the large intestine. While the digestive organs or the accessory digestive organs, there is no entrance of the food inside these organs. They just add some secretions that will help in the process of digestion. They are the teeth, the tongue, the salivary glands, the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. We start first with the mouth. You have to know two things in the mouth. Something called the oral cavity, which is bounded externally by the lips and cheeks. And another place in the mouth is called the vestibule. It's like a pocket or a space between the lips or cheeks and the teeth. The mouth is separated from the nasal cavity by the roof of the mouth. So this is the roof of the mouth, or it's called the palate. It's formed of two parts. The hard palate is made of skull bones, so it is hard because it is made of bones. And a soft palate at the very posterior end of the palate is called the soft palate, and it is made of muscle. In the middle, we have a finger-like projection extending from the soft palate. It is called the uvula. For the teeth, in the adult, we have 32 teeth. In each one half of each jaw, we have two incisors, central incisor and lateral incisor. They are used for biting. Then we have one canine. It's for tearing of food like meat, for example. And we have two premolars, first and second premolars for grinding. And then we have the three molars for crushing, first, second, and third. The third one is called the wisdom tooth. In the babies, we have what's called deciduous teeth, or temporary teeth, or milk teeth. They are 20 in number. In each one half of each jaw, we have the following teeth. We have the incisors, central and lateral, and one canine, and just two molars, first and second. The tongue is an organ that is found inside the mouth. It's a muscular organ covered by mucous membrane. So in this diagram, you can see the tongue from behind. This is a cut section in it, so it is filled with muscles like that in order to move it and change its shape. This is the tip of the tongue, and this is the mucous membrane covering it. There is something called frenulum. It is a fold of mucous membrane attaches the undersurface of the tongue to the floor of the mouth. So in this picture, this is someone elevating or raising his tongue up, so you can see the undersurface of the tongue. and there is a fold of mucous membrane holding this undersurface of the tongue to the floor of the mouth. On the dorsal surface of the tongue, the part that faces the hard palate, it is rough, filled with projections. It's called papillae. They lie here on the dorsal surface of the tongue. Some of them contain the taste receptors or taste buds. Also inside the mouth, we can see the main salivary glands. We have three of them, three pairs of salivary glands, three on the right side and three on the left side. In this diagram, you can see the three on the left side of the mouth. The largest one is called the parotid gland. Another one lies under the mandible. It's called the submandibular gland. And another one lies under the tongue, so it is called the sublingual gland. The salivary glands secrete a secretion called saliva into the mouth through their ducts. So they are excrine glands. This is the duct of the parotid gland. This is the parotid duct. Also, this is the submandibular duct. Here opens into the undersurface of the tongue in the mouth cavity, and these openings for the sublingual ducts. Saliva, like I said, it is a secretion from these glands. They contain bicarbonates and other sorts of enzymes, and their function is to begin the process of digestion of certain type of food like starch. If we talk a little bit about each one, the parotid glands, they are the largest salivary glands here. You can see the parotid glands here. They lie anterior and somewhat inferior to the ears. Here lies anterior and somewhat inferior to the ears. And their ducts open into the vestibule of the mouth. So this is the vestibule. This place is called again the vestibule. And you can see here the opening of the parotid duct opposite the upper second molar tooth. The sublingual glands, from their name, they lie beneath or below the tongue. That's why they are called the sublingual glands. Each one has many ducts, and also we have another gland here lies close to the mandible, here under the mandible. It's called the submandibular glands. They lie in the floor of the mouth, on the medial surface of the mandible, and also each one has a single duct. Both the sublingual ducts and the submandibular duct open under the surface of the tongue into the oral cavity. The next part of the digestive system is called the pharynx. The pharynx is a muscular tube and it's formed of three parts. The first part of the pharynx lies behind the nasal cavity, so it is called the nasopharynx, this area. And the second part lies behind the oral cavity, so it is called the oropharynx. And the third part lies behind the larynx. That's why it's called the laryngopharynx. So the pharynx is divided into three parts according to the cavity which lies in front of them, either the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, and the laryngopharynx. The pharynx acts as a passage for the air and also a passage for the food. So it's a common passage for both the digestive system and the respiratory system. So in order for the food not to get into the respiratory system, it is guarded here by part of the larynx, which is called the epiglottis, in which slides backward to close the larynx during swallowing of the food. There's no digestion of food takes place into the pharynx, just it is a passage for both air and food. Next we have the esophagus. It is a muscular tube. Extends from the end of the pharynx down to the beginning of the stomach. So it passes both inside the thoracic cavity and also part of it lies inside the abdominal cavity. Its rhythmic contraction called peristalsis, which pushes the food along it to the rest of the alimentary canal. So this is the esophagus. It contracts above the bolus of food to push it downward into the stomach. This rhythmic contraction again is called peristalsis. Next we have the stomach. It is a thick-walled muscular organ. Looks like the letter J. Lies on the left side of the abdominal cavity, deep to the liver and the diaphragm. So this is the stomach and this is the liver, and here should be the diaphragm. So it lies on the left side of the abdominal cavity, behind the liver and deep to the diaphragm or below the diaphragm. It's continuous with the esophagus above here, and it is also continuous with the small intestine below. So what's about the function of the stomach? The stomach acts like a reservoir of food where the food is mixed inside it. The start of digestion of proteins and fats occurs there. Because of the acidity of the stomach, it activates some enzymes that they need acidic media to be activated. Also, it destroys some bacteria and makes the intrinsic factor that is important for B12 absorption. It absorbs the alcohol and water. Then we have the small intestine. As you can see from this diagram, I colored the small intestine into 3 different colors, means that it's formed of 3 different regions. The small intestine extends from the pyloric sphincter or the end of the stomach to the ileocecal valve or the beginning of the cecum. It's divided into the following regions: duodenum, here, the upper 25 centimeters or 12 inches of the small intestine is called the duodenum. Then we have the jejunum, and finally we have the ileum. For the jejunum, it is a C-shaped tubular organ. Okay, this is the jejunum. Looks like the letter C. Measures about 25 centimeters or 12 inches and extends from the pyloric sphincter of the stomach, or the end of the stomach here, pyloric sphincter of the stomach, to the beginning of the next part of the small intestine, which is called the jejunum. For the jejunum, we need to know the following: that it receives the openings of the bile duct or common bile duct. So it receives bile secretions that come from the liver and the gallbladder here. The bile is formed inside the liver, stored inside the gallbladder, and entered through the common bile duct into the jejunum. Also, it receives pancreatic secretions that come from the pancreas through the main pancreatic duct. Then the next part of the small intestine that follows the jejunum is called the jejunum. It extends from the jejunum to the beginning of the ileum. It forms about the proximal 2/5 of the small intestine. It has slightly larger lumen than the ileum and more mucosal folds. Also, the arterial supply of the jejunum here, it forms less branching and less network formation. We call it arterial arcades, and has long vessels that travel through these arcades to reach the jejunum. We call it vasa recta. So if you compare the jejunum to the ileum, it has less arterial arcades, meaning the network of vessels here, and longer vasa recta compared to the ileum. And this is part of the ileum. It has a narrower lumen than the jejunum, less mucosal folds, more arterial arcades, and shorter vasa recta. The last region of the small intestine is called the ileum. It forms the distal 3/5 of the small intestine. The terminal portion or part of the ileum empties into the medial end of the beginning of the large intestine, which is called the cecum, through a valve. This is called the ileocecal valve. Inside the wall of the ileum, we have special aggregation of lymphoid tissue. It's called pairs, patches. They are abundant. We can see them here at the wall of the ileum. For the large intestine, here, this is the large intestine. It's about 1.5 meters in length. It begins at the lower right quadrant of the abdomen, ascends upward till it reaches the liver, and then cross the abdomen from right to left till it reaches the spleen, and then descends downwards into the pelvis, and finally terminates at the ends. So the large intestine is formed of the following parts. First we have the cecum, and from the cecum a finger-like extension is called appendix, comes out of it. Then we have the colon divided into the following parts: the ascending colon, the transverse colon, the descending colon, and the sigmoid colon. Then we have the rectum and terminates at the anal canal. The large intestine differs from the small intestine in the following. Besides, of course, it has a larger lumen and a shorter length. From inside, it has no villi like the small intestine. The smooth muscles of the large intestine arranged in long pans at its outer wall. They are called tinea coli. We cannot see this on the wall of the small intestine. Also, in the large intestine, there is sacculations or hausturations, while in the small intestine, there is no hausturation or sacculations. Also, in the larger intestine, you can see extensions from the peritoneum filled with fat. It is called pip-like appendages. They are absent in the small intestine. So, what's the function of the larger intestine? It receives the undigested food from the small intestine. It absorbs water and the electrolytes from this undigested food and transforms it into a solid material. It's called the feces or fecal materials, and passes it out of the GIT in the process which is called defecation. For the liver, which is one of the accessory digestive organs, it is the largest gland in the body. Here is the liver. It lies in the upper right part of the abdomen and formed of 4 loops. 2 of them you can see them from the front, the right loop and the left loop, and 2 small loops you can see them from behind. So we have right loop, left loop, also 2 small loops, caudate and quadrate loops. And the liver performs many functions, over 500 functions in the body. Some of these functions like formation of bile, detoxification or removal of drugs from the body, or alcohol or other types of toxins. Also, it stores many substances like glycogen, like vitamin A, D, E, K, or fat soluble vitamins, like iron and other minerals, and also stores cholesterol. Also, it activates vitamin D, produce or form RBCs in the fetus, phagocytosis, metabolizes absorbed food molecules like carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. The second organ here is the gallbladder. This small sac that lies under the liver. It's a sac-like organ attached to the inferior surface of the liver. It stores and concentrates bile. So it receives bile that is formed inside the liver, then concentrated and stored inside it. Then, from its duct, it expels this concentrated bile into what is called the common bile duct, which opens into the duodenum. Bile is a yellowish-green fluid that emulsifies fats. The last organ I'm going to talk about is the pancreas. Here is the pancreas, and this is the posterior abdominal wall. So you can see the two big vessels that lies in the posterior abdominal wall, the aorta and the inferior vena cava. And these two organs are the kidneys, and these are the two suprarenal glands. So you can see the pancreas lies across the posterior abdominal wall. It is a soft lobulated organ. The pancreas is a mixed gland, both endocrine and exocrine. Its endocrine function through groups of cells called the pancreatic islets or islets of Langerhans. They secrete insulin and glucagon into the blood. The exocrine part of the gland secretes pancreatic juice through the pancreatic duct, which opens again into the duodenum. This diagram summarizes the overall function of the GIT. First, we ingest the food through our mouth. Inside the mouth, there is mechanical digestion, or the start of the mechanical digestion performed by the teeth in the form of chewing. Also, the tongue helps in this by moving the food from one side of the teeth to the other one. Also, the mechanical digestion occurs inside the stomach. The mechanical digestion carry on in the small intestine through segmentation of the food into small particles. This is called the mechanical digestion. And then the chemical digestion takes place, starts at the lower end of the stomach and also in the duodenum by adding the pancreatic juice and the bile juice into the food. Also, the chemical digestion carry on in the small intestine. Then absorption of food takes place here, absorption of food. So it starts in the wall of the small intestine. Okay. Either the lipid substance is absorbed by the lacteals in the villi of the small intestine, or the other type of digested food is absorbed directly into the blood vessels like glucose and other molecules. Then the undigested food will move into the large intestine, where they are transformed into solid materials by reabsorption of water from this undigested food and formation of fecal materials. And then excretion or defecation takes place through the rectum and anal canal. This is the end of my presentation, and thank you for listening.